So, new Muslim, first Ramadan, is buzzing off it, comes up to you afterwards and suddenly says, where did all the Muslims go? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Yes, it's that sad story that we have to try and explain to so many actually existing born Muslims. The one about the new guy who's just had just the greatest month of his life, a month in a masjid, lots of Quran, lots of hugs, free meals, iftar, suhoors, bonuses, salah, everyone laughing, buzzing, hustle, the bustle. He really feels it. He's seen every single person he can imagine, black, white, red, brown, every single person ever. And suddenly, Eid comes, he's on his own. Couple of weeks after, no one in that same masjid. The guy is bamboozled. Behind the laugh and jokes, of course, this is a serious matter. We all know, and you probably have heard it in every single khutbah straight after the last one of Ramadan. You've heard the khatib tell you that if you want to really know whether Ramadan actually worked, whether you really want to know whether your fasts have been accepted, you want to really know, did the dua get through, did Laylatul Qadr actually work out for you, then see your state after Ramadan. Because if it did actually get accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you have become from the muttaqeen. And the muttaqeen, of course, the people of taqwa, is a permanent state. It's not a verb, it's a noun, meaning you are a person of taqwa, meaning it's something which is continuous. And therefore, if you're not seeing that continuity in your practice, in your sincerity, in your worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, clearly Ramadan didn't go as well for you as you might have thought. But that's obviously not what you're going to say to this guy. You're going to completely freak him out by telling him to score like that. And it's a difficult situation. There's no way to try and blag this. This is something that you're going to have to be very honest with this new Muslim or new Muslimah and explain. And I think the golden rule kind of comes out at this juncture. And there is one of these golden rules for new Muslims. And you're always having to remind them of this fact. And that is that never confuse the message for the messengers. You became Muslim because of Islam, not because of the Muslims. And it's a great mercy, and it's genuinely one of the great messages of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that when people do become Muslim, they do become Muslim because of actually what they have read and what they believe to be the actual religion, and not because of exposure to Muslims and their communities and what they do. Because frankly, as messengers, so that's why we say we believe in the message and we come to the deen because of the message, not the messengers, i.e. us. We do a pretty lame job of conveying this message. And I think that if you have a person who becomes Muslim just because of other people, then you're always going to find a weakness in their iman, in their faith, in their creed, which will crumble at any moment when the test comes. Now, there's many variations of this, okay? And I obviously will deal with the one that we've put forward with respect to Ramadan in a second. But another example of this is relationships. You'll so often see a boyfriend or a girlfriend that will accept Islam because one of the other partners has. And so I remember a very popular example, someone who became Muslim, and the girl was in love with him as she was as the girlfriend. And when he became a Muslim, she wanted to stay with him. And he said that that's exactly what I would like to do as well, but I want to do it now in marriage as opposed to just a illegal relationship, just a basic kind of boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. And so she said, I'm ready to do that. And so she became Muslim and she joined him, and then I was the one who did the nikah for them. And I remember very, very clearly what I said to the sister at that time. I said, listen, it's beautiful that you love this person and trust this person so much that you've followed them in this kind of life decision. But you really, really, and I don't just mean for our sake and for authenticity's sake and for pleasing the community's sake, that you've become Muslim. You really need to believe in it. And I don't even want to go ahead with this, even this marriage or even this concept of your shahada, until you genuinely actually believe what you're about to accept, because it really is going to impact upon your life. we don't just want, cheap kind of da'wah and just cheap converts just for the sake of, another tick in a box, or just to keep a person happy in a relationship. There has to be some genuine belief that you're doing it for the sake of Allah. Because if it doesn't happen then afterwards, a little tiny thing, like for example, hey, I saw a Muslim smoking weed. Hey, I saw a Muslim drinking in a club. Hey, I saw a Muslim not covering and she was, in some kind of movie or whatever. That really shakes the faith, because they have this idea that if something is so beautiful, so pure, so true, how is it possible that a Muslim would go against it? It's like your children, right? You often see when your kids are with you and you come across another Muslim and they're smoking, the kids are like, Baba, that's haram. That's how is that? They don't understand the concept that someone who is a Muslim could do actually haram. And that's actually, I don't know to diss or denigrate the new Muslim, mature new Muslim, and say that he's like a kid, but that genuinely, that innocence is there. They are shocked and they're surprised, because the truth is the truth and they see it in a very, very pure way. It's a sad thing, of course, that after a period of time, they're also going to get used to it as well, and they're going to have to explain the same thing to the other new Muslims. And that's the sad and the funny thing. But obviously, the challenge that you have to hand is to try and motivate this person who has become demotivated, who is depressed by seeing, a previous super high where everyone's really looking really, enthused about their religion and very sincere, and then afterwards they're not. And I think, and this is my honest opinion, I don't think you should beat around the bush. I think you do need to be very honest with them and say that this does show a lack of sincerity. And this does show to you, John, Charlie, Mike, Abdurrahim, whatever the name of this person is, say to them, this does show you, John, that actually there are many, many Muslims that are struggling with their own spirituality. And this is going to be a struggle for you as well. You're going to fall into this situation too. This is something which happens regularly to all people, and our iman, our faith, is something which goes up and down, and we have good days and we have bad days. And I think genuinely honesty is the best policy, because the more that you try to kind of say, they've got busy or this or that, and there are some explanations that you can put forward, and you can say that of course Islam is a very congregational kind of experience. You'll see that people are at their best when those around them are doing the same thing. That's why when everyone goes to Hajj and there's that concentration of people doing that doing that ibadah for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they do get their energy off the others around them, and they get inspired by the people around them. Fasting is a very easy example to look at. For example, fasting, the voluntary fast on the sunnah of the Monday and the Thursday, is far more difficult, regardless of whether it's in the summer, a long day or short winter day, far more difficult than the equivalent fast of Ramadan. Because when you look around and every single person around you is fasting, and everyone's starting at the same time and it's closing at the same time, you start to feel that camaraderie, and you start to feel that kind of the fact that everyone is doing it. This is the norm. This is what people do, and so you just get into the flow of things. And so the congregational impact upon the ease of ibadah. So the fact that a lot of people are doing something makes your worship easier is a real truth, and you don't need to hide that. You can say that it's actually easier for people to come together. They do feel more enthused when you go to Fajr, for example. And I can give you a personal example. My Fajr experiences over the last 20 years in the different places that I've lived, it's far more easier to go and pray Fajr when you know that there's going to be a couple of lines of people, and when you know that the masjid is going to be full, then you feel excited to go there, and you go in and you see, especially Fajr, especially the morning prayer, when you see a lot of people, it really motivates you. You think, subhanAllah, there's khair in the ummah. This is not an easy prayer. A lot of people are coming out to pray. There's got to be a good sign here. And so more people has that impact, and that's upon old dogs like me. So what about new people, weak people, and so on. And so I remember when we were doing Fajr in places where the Muslim community is not very big, and it's only you and the Imam. Or for example, I remember clearly when I was praying in some areas of the country where there was only a few people, and even worse actually where there's no Imam, and then you're probably going to be put forward as the imam yourself, and you're not ready for it, you haven't prepared for it, you're working full time, and to be an imam is a full-time job in itself, full-time responsibility. And so small numbers, they do have that impact. So I'm just saying that that actually is a real genuine cause, but don't try and blag that that's the actual reason, because you don't want to lie to people, you don't want to give them some kind of false information. You're going to be straight up and honest and say, listen, there is special a blessing in Ramadan, there is a great coming together and camaraderie, as I said, in the congregational kind of aspect of Ramadan. But that's not the actual reason. People are struggling with their spirituality. If people really were committed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like I want to try and be, and like what you need to try and be, and do it for the sake of Allah, not for the sake of Islam, not for the sake of the Muslims, then they should be continuing on this deen with that same fervor, that same kind of enthusiasm. And the fact that they're not doing it shows that we're all struggling. That honesty is what I always express to brothers and sisters. And I'm not even talking new brothers and sisters, I'm talking the existing ones who get demotivated. And obviously, that's why our da'wah and our efforts need to be of the same quality spread out throughout the year, as opposed to just the month of Ramadan. In another episode, I was explaining the concept of charity, about how much we've become so focused on Ramadan that we don't seem to give charity outside of Ramadan. Like, for example, zakah. We try to put every single charitable project under one category of zakah to try and get it over and done with, and are not willing to support it outside of Ramadan. Likewise, our qiyam, it's like we do all of our tahajjud for the whole year in Ramadan, all of our fasting in Ramadan for the rest of the year. That's just not that's not how this deen works. And that's something which, as I said, you express in an honest way, in an open way, and we still tell people there's good times, bad times. And this is a really good opportunity to ram home to this new Muslim just how important it is to be in the company of good people, because that is what actually brings people, pushes people forward and keeps them motivated. And you'll say to them that a lot of these people that were in the masjid in Ramadan and you saw in Ramadan, they are now by themselves, and shaitan is always going to devour that lone sheep, always. And so the company that they keep, they need to keep coming to the masjid. Ignore the fact that other people are not coming. Keep working on yourself. The message is why you became Muslim, not because of the messengers, the lame job that we did. And keep emphasizing that. And of course, there has to be a great reminder for ourselves when we see this innocence. Are we actually maintaining that same quality ourselves? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, this person is not going to judge this religion by people that they don't see every single day, but the one that they are close to, that's what they're going to be inspired by. And when you speak to these people afterwards, after many years after they've become Muslim, and they go back and they tell you about their story, they will nominate and they will single out a particular person that they look to and they were inspired by, and that kept them going through difficult times. And whatever difficulty you're going through, they're going through it far more than you are. So it's a very important reminder to ourselves as well in this issue. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.